Hello, and welcome to Michael's Minty Music for today. Today we are reviewing Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, uh, the Beatles' iconic 1967 album. This is possibly their most famous album, although a lot of the Beatles have a lot of famous albums. So like Revolver, Abbey Road, and Let It Be are all also super famous, and their their less famous ones are still really famous. I'm sure you've heard of this album before, and probably know at least one song of that song that's on it. This album's really super iconic, especially with the um, cover. The cover is very iconic as well. And with all that in mind, this is the track listing. You got 13 tracks on it, and these are the tracks I added to my playlist, which is all of them except for one. I didn't add "Fixing a Hole." Um, There were no singles released off of this album, technically. Not all Beatles albums are like this. They specifically chose to be sort of like, we're not releasing any music until it comes out. But the most famous songs here are easily Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. Everyone's heard that one. A Day in the Life, you've probably heard that one. And With a Little Help from My Friends, you've probably heard that one. My favorite song here, although basically all of them compete for the top song, pretty much. All of the songs here are really good. Is probably got to go with Good Morning, Good Morning. Um, I think that's just my personal favorite. There's definitely pretty much any of these songs you can choose and have it be your favorite, and it's respectable because they're all good. This album is basically a perfect album. It's amazing. It does an interesting thing where it sort of slows down. It starts off high and slows down on the end of the first side, and then the second side starts off kind of slow and then ends up high, with Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band Reprise being the sort of high point, and then on side one, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band being sort of the high point there. So it's kind of the album kind of is a valley in terms of momentum, and it's kind of maybe for that reason that I put Sgt. Pepper's just barely below Revolver in my overall Beatles rankings. There's no doubt in my mind that these are the two best Beatles albums. I think that Revolver is maybe slightly better designed album and maybe has slightly better songs overall, but it's really close. And honestly, if the White Album wasn't so big, it probably could compete with the top two as well. But as it stands, I'm basically certain that, well, my opinion is basically set that Revolver and Sgt. Pepper's are at the top, and then I think I got to go with Revolver for the top slot, but it's definitely super close. And then this is easily my favorite album from 1967, and it beats out also the Beatles with Magical Mystery Tour, which is a soundtrack album. It's still pretty good. The Beatles kind of have the best soundtrack albums ever made. Um, I don't know, that's a bold statement, but the other album it beats out is the Velvet Underground and Nico, which is an interesting album, but it's definitely not better than Sgt. Pepper's. There's really no competing with the best of the Beatles. Now I will reveal what artist I will be listening to for the next couple of weeks. This will be the new album every week, every Sunday. It will be Pink Floyd. I will review their first album next up, The Piper at the Gates of Dawn, which came out in 1967. I don't expect this to beat Sgt. Pepper's. As I stated, Sgt. Pepper's is like almost the best of the Beatles. But there's only one way to really find out. So, tune in for that and stay tuned in and stay minty.